Hello, hello, book lovers. Welcome to episode 10 of the Biblio Files. We are here with Becky from the BookTube channel, BecxReadz. Hello,
Hi.
Becky. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you've tuned into some of these, so I'm happy that I haven't scared you off yet with some of the hard-hitting interview questions.
No, I've been loving it. I've loved getting to know other booktubers and some that I've already been watching, so it's fun.
It is, it is. I'm having a great time with it, so I'm glad
I'm
you could.
honored that you wanted me here.
Yes, of course, of course. Well, if you're new to viewing this series, what the Biblio Files is we sit down and chat. I have 10 interview questions for BecxReadz, all related to books, favorites, reading habits, and then I have 5 bookish would you rather questions designed to stump her. So we'll see if I have some fun ones. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And of course, I'm your host, Jack, from Jack and the Book Stack, if you didn't know me. So please be sure you're subscribed to both of our channels because we love to talk about books of all different sorts and have some fun on the internet. So Becky, why don't you give a summary? What is your channel like? What can viewers expect to see on your channel?
My name is Becky. As Jack mentioned, my channel is BecxReadz, although some people will say it's BecxReadz, and I just don't have the patience or willpower to tell them they're wrong. It's BecxReadz. I mostly read fantasy and romance and indie books. You will see me mention a lot of books that you've probably never heard of on my channel. I'll read just about anything. I think of myself as a pretty well-rounded reader. As long as a story can grip me and hold my attention, I will read it. I will give it a try. But fantasy and romance are my favorites, so that's what I mainly read. And I'm your basic Becky booktuber. You will get haul videos, you will get unhauls, TBRs, wrap-ups. I do love doing bookstore adventure vlogs. Those are some of my favorite things to film because I love going to indie bookstores and like filming the layout and giving my opinions on the service and things like that. And I do a lot of collabs with like recommendations as well. I love doing collabs. So that's what you can expect on my channel.
Yeah, that's a great overview too. I was going to say the 2 things that stick out to me on your channel are the super creative collabs that you do. Because I love a good theme and they're usually themed. Like I loved your, it was like 50 states of recommendations, booktubers from each state for the 4th of July. I thought that was so incredible and creative. And I loved seeing so many different channels. So you always highlight different channels and you always highlight, like you said, books that I've never heard of. So you're always introducing me to new things that are kind of like quirky or different that I never would have thought of like paying attention to, but you make me pay attention. So I love your channel for those things.
Well, good. Thank you.
All right. So now that I've buttered you up, let's get into these hard-hitting questions.
Okay.
But the first 3 are pretty easy. These are the 3 questions I ask every guest to just get to know you a little better. First one is, what are you reading right now?
So I just got back from vacation, so I'm currently not reading anything really. I started a couple books before I went on vacation and I haven't really gotten back into them. But I'll show you what I'm currently reading. I am currently reading this book called Magic Heist by Mary Carlick.
Okay.
I think it's a young adult. I classify it as a new adult because the characters are like 19 to mid 20-year-olds. But it is a fantasy crime mystery about fae that are fairy size, like Tinkerbell size.
Ooh.
So I thought it was really interesting. It's really cute. It's really wholesome. There's no spice in it. But I thought it was a really unique fairy story. It's set in modern day Edinburgh, which I love. So I'm doing that. And then I also started Blood on Silk, which is a book that I'd never heard of. I found it at my local bookstore. And I don't know yet if it's a paranormal romance or like a horror.
But that's the best, like when you're not quite sure.
I have no idea what it's about. I am about like 30 pages into it.
Oh,
so all I know is it's about a woman who's like studying why people believe in vampires. She has this hypothesis that people were accused people of being vampires, like people accuse people of being witches.
Okay.
And that's all I've gotten so far. So that's what I'm currently reading.
Going into these like blind is like the best because like you said, you don't know if it's going to be horror, if there's going to be romance. So it kind of adds to the tension of it. So that's perfect.
I mean, based on the cover, you would think romance, right?
Yep. Yeah, but I would think.
I know nothing.
Well, you're going to have to keep us posted for sure.
I know nothing.
All right, let's see. We've got John saying hi from Virginia. Hi, John.
Hi, John.
Kristen, hello. Getting ready to leave for a wedding. Ooh, have fun. Oh, I love weddings. I love the food, the dancing, the open bar. I cry at every single wedding I go to, too. I'm such a sucker. Happily ever April. Hello. Glad you could join. Yeah, thank you. All right, well, let's go to question number 2. What is your most read genre and subgenre? So you kind of mentioned this when you said that you read mostly fantasy. Would you say like romantasy would be your most read subgenre?
So fantasy romance is something that I just like started being obsessed with within the past 2 years, I guess.
Okay.
Overall, in my entire lifespan, I think romance would have to be the genre that I read the most of. But within the past like 4 or 5 years, I think fantasy has started becoming more of what I read. And when I say I read fantasy, don't be expecting epic fantasy from me. That is not the fantasy this girl reads.
Okay, so what kind of fantasy would you say?
I tend to read more fantasy romance, historical fantasy, young adult fantasy, middle grade fantasy. I'll read an epic fantasy every now and then, but yeah, no, it's not the fantasy that I prefer.
Gotcha.
So fantasy is definitely now more of what I read, but there's still that undercurrent of romance.
Okay.
So
like a good like romance subplot or
yeah. I think most of the books I enjoy tend to have a romantic subplot.
Yep. I'd say that makes sense based off of your videos. Good romance elements.
I'm a single Pringle, so I need that romance.
Hey, I am what's the opposite of a single Pringle? A taken bacon. And
I love that, a taken bacon.
I'm a taken bacon, but I still need the romance because his idea of romance is bringing me home Taco Bell, which is very romantic, but like it doesn't compare to like some of these books. So I'll be like, read this. Take notes. Do you see what he just said to her? And he is just like, nope, the game is on.
You can do it in reality, babe.
Yeah. See, there's room for romance no matter what your status. So it's always good. Happily ever April. I'm glad you enjoy that. That's just, top of my head.
I'm gonna use that from now on. Taken bacon.
Perfect. We're gonna start a new trend. Well, this is probably the toughest question of the whole list because any book lover, this is a hard question to answer. So I'm not asking for like the number one favorite, but what is a favorite book that you have?
So I actually thought about this. I am a pretty loyal person in all aspects of life. Like when I find something I love, I stick with that thing for a long time. So I've only had about 4 like all-time, anytime somebody asks what's your favorite, I could list the 4 books.
Okay, I'm gonna need all 4 then. I need it.
It was Twilight for the longest time. Don't judge me. It was Twilight. Okay. And then for the longest time, it was Twilight. And then I read this book called Devastation by Shandy L. Kurth. I was once her like biggest fan, her author assistant. I loved that book. It was a YA dystopian. And then for the longest time, that was my favorite book. And then it became Outlander. Because
did you read the whole series, or are you talking about the first one?
I have. I've read the whole series. I think I say Outlander is my favorite, but really it's Voyager.
Okay.
But it's just easier just to tell people Outlander because they know what Outlander is.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that was my favorite for the longest. And now recently, my all-time favorite book has been Radiance by Grace Draven.
Ooh.
So it's like, for the longest time, I'm like, oh, I love this. And then I read this and I'm like, you know what? I think I love this book a lot more than I love Outlander. So currently, this is my favorite book of all time.
Is it like a historical romance or is it a
It
fantasy
is
romance?
a fantasy romance. It's a friends to lovers fantasy romance.
Ooh,
which I absolutely
love
love. It's very slow burn, not a lot of spice, but they're both disgusted with each other. They don't find each other attractive at all. They're forced into an arranged marriage. And so they have to like travel together to his kingdom. And along the way, they get to know each other, and seeing their chemistry grow from like disgust to love is so great. And I loved it.
Love it. I have not heard of that other than from you. So that's one of those books that like off the beaten path, it feels like, well, not saying that I know all the books that are popular, but yeah, right. I love that. Very unique favorites. Yeah. Although Venus tends to agree with you, Team Edward. She likes Twilight. Oh. So
yeah, I was Team Edward in the books.
And then Team Jacob in the movies then?
Yeah. Robert Pattinson just didn't do it for me. But it was weird to like think that 18-year-old Jacob was hot because I was in my 20s.
There's a bunch of confused feelings with Twilight, so you're not alone.
Yeah.
We're not alone there.
Thank God I've matured out of that.
Oh, hey, John's read two of the 4 favorite books.
Oh, yay. Which ones?
Yeah, tell us which ones, Jen.
Let us know.
Outlander, and it has to be Twilight. Those are 2 like.
Yeah, probably. Those are the 2 most popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would guess.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, well, let's go to question number 4, and I'm wondering if this is one of the favorites that you mentioned, but what is a book that made you fall in love with reading?
Twilight.
That's the one?
Yep, that was and that's the only reason it's one of my favorite of all times, is because it's the book that got me into reading. I did not love reading when I was a teenager. I did it because I had to. You know, when you're in school, you got to read the things, do the book reports, you got to take the tests and all that. So I did it because I had to. And I tried to find books that I somewhat liked. Mm-hmm. One series that I remember reading in high school was the Immortals Quartet by Tamora Pierce. And I loved that because it was about a girl who could talk to animals, which was like my dream. But it wasn't the thing that made me fall in love with it. I was obsessed with this show called Moonlight back in the 2010s. It was about a vampire and a human. And one of my coworkers was like, if you love that, you should read Twilight. And I was like, read a book? I'm like, I don't like reading. But I asked for it for Christmas. My mom gave it to me, and I read it in one single day. And then the next day I was like, we need to go to the bookstore so I can get the next 2 books. And I read both of those books in one single day.
Wow.
And then I was like, we need to go back to the bookstore because I need more vampire romances. And it just went from there. So that I haven't been able to stop.
Vampire romances were like your gateway book.
It was my gateway drug, yes. Twilight was the gateway drug.
Have you
Nobody warned me about that.
What is the Vampire Academy? Did you read that one?
I read, I think, the first 3 or 4 books, I think. It wasn't a series that I ever completed, but I did read the first few. Any 2010 paranormal teen vampire, I at least tried. And then it led me into adult paranormal romances with vampires, and that just
then you get on Kindle Unlimited, and it's just like a whole new ball game with
it just led me down to the adult romance where I haven't left.
And why would you ever want to?
Yeah, it was like I read my first adult romance, and I was like, Edward and Bella never did that.
Yeah,
I was like, I want more of that.
Yeah, this is a whole new world. Absolutely.
It did. It opened up doors, man.
Yep. All right, we were right. John read Twilight and Outlander series. Yep. Outlander caught me by surprise, as you know, because we were talking about it when I did my reading vlog on it. Whew, that was heavy.
It was. It's heavy, and it's long, and it's a time commitment.
Yeah, I've gotten through book 2. Voyager is which number?
3.
3. Okay, so I'm gonna have to read that one if that's your favorite. That's next up for me.
Yeah. Some of them can get pretty boring too. I'm not gonna lie. The series as a whole is not the most
engaging
and or fun, but the parts with Jamie and Claire are what kept me going.
Oh yeah, the romance for sure.
Yeah. Yep, go figure.
Happily Ever April. I'm with you though. I haven't read it, and it's not that I like thought I was too cool or anything. A bunch of my friends were really obsessed with Twilight. I wasn't in my reading era then, I guess.
And I think now as like an adult, I would not recommend. I would not recommend you even tried.
It's good for the nostalgia, and if you don't have that nostalgia, I'm sure it's not quite the same. Yeah. Hey, Venus Knows Moonlight.
Moonlight was awesome, wasn't it, Venus? I was so sad that they didn't continue with it. They canceled it after like 2 seasons.
Aw.
But by then I had discovered my love of reading, so I had books.
There you go. Now you can replace it. All right, number 5. Who is a character in a book or series that you most relate to?
Oh my gosh, this was the hardest question you sent me. Because I don't feel like I relate to any characters. Because they're all like badass, weapon wielding, like women that I'm not. I am not a badass by any means.
You don't wield a sword and a shield on your offense?
I fall over when I'm trying to put underwear on one foot at a time, okay? I would like to imagine that I could like wield a sword, but I'd probably get stabbed. I would die.
I wouldn't last long either.
That's why I love reading, because I get to become those characters that I'm not. I am this very like socially awkward, introverted bookworm who's legally blind. So like, let me become a wielding, weapon, kick-ass, dragon riding chick.
But I think there's plenty of characters that, overcome obstacles and are introverted and prefer reading books to like be in the action. So there might be some, but I think
there's like aspects of certain characters that I can relate to. But like as a character overall, the only one I could think of that I had like a super relatability to was Fern from Charlotte's Web.
That's an interesting answer.
Because when I was her age, that was me. I was Fern. I grew up around animals. I raised animals as a kid. I had a baby pig that I raised that got sent off to the slaughterhouse against my wishes.
Oh, that's horrible. That is so tragic.
That was, and it traumatized me because that pig was the reason I don't eat pork or any pig products to this day.
Oh, man. I don't like that story.
So that was the only character that I was like, oh, yes, I relate to her so much.
Well, and I think your answer is a good one, too, because, I've heard the conversation before. You don't have to relate to the characters that you read, right? Yeah. One of the benefits of reading is getting other perspectives, having an escape into another life. And I think it just broadens your horizons really to see how people different from you think. So I still think that's a good approach. I don't think it's weird or bad if there's not a lot of characters to relate to.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to super relate to some character out there. I'm just waiting for an author to write a character that I relate to, but she's gonna have to be a very boring character. And nobody wants to read those.
I would not say you're boring at all. I think you're super adventurous. You travel a lot. You have to have like
for the day-to-day, I'm a pretty boring. That's why I hate doing vlogs, because my life is so boring.
No, you just got to romanticize, the beauty in the mundane. Right? Like, I'm a homebody. I don't like to leave the house that much either, but I have so much fun. So I think you're kind of similar, right? There can be beauty in the mundane, in the ordinary.
I try to find it, but I'm like, there are only so many vlogs that I can show my backyard and my gardening skills. And me taking the dog for a walk. It's like, oh.
But it's relatable. It's relatable, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
Every once in a while I get an adventure. I'm like,
Yeah.
look at me. I'm being a main character energy today.
Yes, main character energy. I like, for everybody watching, I want you to know that this girl is saying that she is boring, but she just got back from Hawaii and had the most amazing tropical vacation with lots of adventure and sunsets and beach and food. So no, don't get to say that you're boring, because you were far, far from it. And see, I like gardening too. I like I'm thinking about my fall garden and what I want to plant, and Arizona's really tough for planting, so I live vicariously through your garden, Becky.
I'm about giving up on it. I'm like, it's about to be fall.
Yeah, see, we're opposites.
The things are dying. I'm done for the season.
Yeah, this is nothing lived. It was like up to like 117, 18 here in Phoenix, so nothing survived.
I'm sitting here in my hoodie. It's
I know. I'm in
outside.
I'm in my tank top. You're in a hoodie. We are on opposite ends of the country here.
We are. I'm loving it though. I'm loving the cool weather.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
It's nice.
All right. Well, what is your least favorite thing in books? So this can be like a trope or a characteristic.
This is the easiest question you asked me. I have a long list of things I don't like in books, but the top thing is cheating and love triangles. I hate them. Those are the things that will make me DNF a book like on the spot when I notice them. Which is ironic because Twilight was the book.
Yeah.
That started my love of reading.
I know. I'm kind of questioning you on that. So maybe it's is it situational?
I think I read so many love triangles in the like early stages of me loving reading. And I didn't even really love them back then. But it was just like, oh, I was young and it was interesting, and then I got burnt out on them. Whereas now as an adult, I find it very immature. I find it very wishy-washy and like playing with people's feelings. If it's not a why choose, like if it's literally just a love triangle and you know that the character is going to end up with one person, but they're stringing this other character along, it drives me crazy now. I can't do it.
Well, especially as you mentioned, as you start reading like spicier books, it's like, wait, why do you have to choose one? Just have them all. Like, just be a throuple. Like just there's no triangle. Just everybody's together.
And why choose aren't necessarily my favorite things to read either. I've mentioned it. I'm a monogamous bitch. I like my one-on-one couples.
Okay, so no love triangles and no cheating.
But no love triangles, no cheating. I can do the why choose occasionally, but nothing makes me DNF a book like love triangles and cheating.
Yeah, those are frustrating to me. In love triangles, as you said, they're very stereotypical of like YA books or new adult books. And so it's interesting as I'm trying to get more into YA fantasy, and I'm seeing these love triangles and I'm like, come on, guys, like this is exactly why this categorization of books has this reputation, is because of these love triangles.
I think it's definitely like devolved over time. Like it's not as prevalent as it once was. But all those early 2010s were love triangle after love triangle, and it was
and Twilight probably started it, right? Like it was like a huge catch because you have Team Jacob, Team Edward, and so like marketers and publishing companies were like, that's what the people want. That kind of interaction.
It worked.
They want that debate among their fans, right? So
yeah. And it's like, I think it lives up to like that. Maybe I don't know if it's a teenage fantasy, because I certainly never fantasized about two guys fighting over me when I was a teenager.
No, I think it is, and I think it comes from. Okay, so let's take Twilight. Bella is this like angsty, nobody understands me, I'm all alone, different from
She's
everybody
not
else.
like other girls.
Not like other girls, right? And then you have this guy that understands you, and then this other guy that wants you too. So it's just like,
it's very appealing.
Yeah, like nobody wants you, but then multiple people want you. I think it's that kind of like that element that of the fantasy that appeals to teens, is like being seen, right?
Right. So. And I think even as like because I was 20 when I read it, and it appealed to me because I was like, oh my god, this girl Bella, she's me. She's a klutzy brunette who moves around to places. Oh my god, I just realized she could be a character I relate to.
Oh gosh.
Oh
Oh
my
gosh.
god.
I can't let you claim that. I can't.
I won't. I'll
You
stick
are
with
way
Fern.
cooler. You are way cooler than Bella
Yeah.
Swan, right? Her last name's Swan.
Yeah.
You are way cooler than that. So no, I'm not
But
gonna
at
let
the
you.
time, I was like, oh, I see myself in her so much. And I think she was one of those characters meant for the reader to insert yourself upon.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, I
Absolutely.
mean, it worked for me even when I wasn't a teen.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
thank God. I reread it like in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and I still enjoyed it. It still got 4 stars. I didn't enjoy it as much as I did when I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it had a lot to do with that nostalgia.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, kind of narrowing down from that question, what is a spicy scene pet peeve that you have?
I think my biggest spicy pet peeve is just the terminology that authors use to describe the body parts. It's like, I am a grown ass adult. I know what I'm reading. I don't need nubs and flowers and folds and manhood. I don't need all that. Just call it what it is, please. It won't stop me from reading a book, and it's not like something I hate. But when I read it, it gives me the eye roll.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
like, are we still doing these words? Really? Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. That takes me out of the story because I'm kind of like laughing at it as being like so cheesy.
Yeah.
It's kind of like talking to like a child where you give like
Exactly. It's like
body
dumbing
parts.
it down. It's making it like palatable to read. And it's like, I'm an adult. I know what my body parts are. Like, you don't need to make it a pretty euphemism for me. I'm just like, just say what it is.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. That's a great answer for that. I would agree with you 100%. And it gets repetitive too.
Yeah.
So,
especially when they it's almost like authors try to come up with as many euphemisms for a dick as they possibly can in one book, aside from saying what it is.
Yeah. Well, and it's even worse. So it's if it's in the description, that's bad enough. But if it's like in the characters' dialogue to each other, I just can't. I can't.
Oh, that's so cringy. It's like, why are you calling it that?
Yeah, like to each other. I get like the internal dialogue or if like the character's like describing what's going on or the narrator is, but like when they're talking to each other and using those terms, it's like
it's like, if you're not mature enough to use the proper body parts, maybe you're not mature enough to be doing it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we're reading this because we're interested in the spice, right? So it's like you can use vulgar language or sign like the actual name,
or just don't use
vulgar.
it at all. Like, either give me like the slang term for it, or just don't. You can explain a sex scene to me without the use of certain words, and I can still understand what's happening because I know where things go.
That is a really good answer. I'm gonna be thinking about you next time I'm reading a spicy scene. No.
Oh, please don't.
You're like, would BecxReadz approve of this terminology?
Probably, if it's got the word nub in it, especially.
Oh gosh.
Every time I read nub, I'm just like,
no, yeah, please
why
don't.
is this a word? The only time I can like sort of get past it is if it's a historical, because in my mind I'm like, okay, you're in the olden days, the like 1700s or whatever. Maybe you didn't know that this was a term.
That's a good point. Okay, that's we can give them a pass on that.
Which is probably why I don't read a lot of historicals.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
yeah. The most like historical romance I read, it's like set, like it was written long time ago. Right? Like I don't read a lot of like it's written present day about historical time periods. But I think I'm going to be reading Bridgerton next year, so I'll be curious.
Oh, good luck with that.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't like it?
I didn't even try.
Oh, okay.
I heard some things. I heard some reviews about the first book, and I didn't like what I heard, so I never tried.
Crap. I just ordered the.
And I'm not really into the whole. I guess it's a Regency, right?
Yeah.
Oh, those are beautiful though.
Yeah, but I
know
don't
lots
want
of
to read
people love
like.
it, but I'm just not into like Regency romance.
Okay. Yep. I am.
It's like,
Well,
he sees her ankle and he gets all attracted. I'm like, that's ankle.
talk about forbidden romance, man. Those ankles.
Yeah, it is.
They'll
It's scandalous.
so. Ooh. All right. Well, let's go to question number 8. So, when we were introducing your channel and learning more about you, you mentioned that you do a lot of collabs. So, what is your favorite collab that you've done? There's been a lot of them.
There has. The one I'm most proud of is my Meet the USA Booktuber collab that I did. That took me the longest to put together. It took me the longest to research because I felt like a stalker. I literally was like searching booktube, like booktubers in this state, booktubers shopping in this state to see if I could find, and I found so many that way, and then I wasn't subscribed to them. So then I would have to like go to their Instagram and message them and be like, hey, that's what I'm doing. Would you like to participate? And most of them were so nice and agreed. Where'd you go? And that's one that I'm most proud of. There you are.
There we are. Had a little bit of connectivity issue.
I was like, oh my gosh, I hope that's not me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can hear you now. Okay. Yeah, so it was kind of breaking up. I don't know if that was on which end that was, but you were saying that you had to research them and find them and reach out to them, and most of them were really nice. And
yeah, so that's the one I'm most proud of doing, is that one, just because it took a lot of work on my part. But I also did love my badass female collab I did, because that was the biggest collab that included like separate channels.
Mm-hmm.
So I love doing recommendation collabs because I don't like watch TV. I don't watch streaming services or anything like that. So YouTube is my TV. Yep. So if I can get like a bunch of people to post on the same day,
you have a whole weekend of material.
It just gives me so much stuff to watch, and I love it.
Well, if you're new,
love like,
go ahead.
Yeah, and I love bringing those like big channels and small channels together, and people who read across like different spectrums together to collab on things. Because even though you don't read the same things, you can still recommend books based on certain tropes, settings, feelings, things like that. So I love being the bridge to bring those groups of people together.
Me too. And they're always very inclusive, like you said, across genres and styles and like channel size. And so you learn about a whole bunch of new channels and book lovers out there. So, if you're viewing this interview and you're new to BecxReadz channel, those are 2 awesome videos to check out. And I think for the badass females one, you have like a playlist, right, of everyone who participated, because what you did is each booktuber had like recorded their recommendations and posted on their channel, right? So it's a bunch of different channels that people can learn about, and then the booktubers across the USA, it's your video, and you just compiled clips from everybody. So there's one video on your channel. I love that, and I mean, Arizona was the best one.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
But, super creative. So if you're watching this interview and you're new to BecxReadz channel, definitely check out those 2 videos. Venus agrees. I think she commented
Venus
this.
Participated in that too.
Oh, nice. So yeah, I got to check it out. All the cool kids are in that video.
They are. I love it.
All right. So we talked about when you started reading in your 20s with Twilight. But more specifically, how has your reading taste changed over the past 3 to 5 years? And kind of like when I was thinking about asking you this question, it's kind of with this like emergence of like Bookstagram and Book Talk and BookTube becoming so much more prevalent. So that's really where I was going with this. So how have your reading taste changed over the past few years?
I think if you would have told me like 4 years ago that I would have been into alien and monster romance, I would have questioned your sanity. I knew they were a thing, but I had just never read them until recently. And then I read a alien romance and I was like hooked and I got obsessed and now I love it. I think that and fantasy romance have been like the biggest shifts in my reading, because now they're the things that I'm like, I want to read them all. Other than that, I don't really think my reading has changed much. I'm still a wide genre reader. I'll give anything a chance. I did start listening to audiobooks more since 2020. That has been probably the biggest change because I never liked audiobooks in the past. I thought they were really boring. And then 2020 hit and I got like a free 60-day trial to Scribd or something. And I got to try all the audiobooks and I was like, oh my God, this is great.
Oh, that's amazing.
That is probably the biggest change was audiobooks.
That's awesome. And like mixing up the platform or the media type, physical book, digital book, audiobook, it helps you read more, right? Because you can read more situations, more moods.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good
one.
And
I have this bad habit of buying physical books and then listening to the audio version.
Same.
I don't know why I do that. I should really just listen to the audio. And then if I like it, then go buy the book. But it's almost like if I have the physical on my shelf, then it encourages me to read it sooner.
We're here for a good time, not a long time. Buy all the books you want. It's fine.
It's like, I don't know. That's my reader red flag, I guess. I just buy the physical and read the audiobooks.
I think a lot of us can relate. That's fine.
I think it's just easier. It's easier to get them read because I can only sit down and read for so many hours a day. But I can listen to an audiobook while I'm outside, while I'm doing housework, and it just gets them read faster.
Yep, and it's so true. I was looking at my Libby audiobook list because I'm like, okay, I need to wash the floor today. So what audiobook do I want to listen to while I'm washing the floor? So yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, it really makes those chores much more enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, question number 10, what is a book that surprised you the most by how much you enjoyed it?
I think the books that surprise me the most are the ones that other people recommend to me, or books that I read for like certain video projects or something. Books that I have no intention of actually reading myself. Like I wouldn't pick them up just on my own volition. And then I'll read some, and then when I like them, those are the ones that surprise me.
Is there one in particular that like jumps to mind?
My friend Jessica wanted me to read The Chain by Adrian McKinty, I think his name is. That's a thriller, and I'll read thrillers every once in a while, but it's not like a genre I gravitate to. So when I read a thriller and I enjoy it, I'm like, oh, this was really good. So I really enjoyed that one, and it surprised me.
Oh, cool.
I can't think of one recently that I read that like surprised, because I go into all my books expecting to enjoy them. So none of them like surprise me when I do enjoy them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you're going into them expecting 4 to 5 stars probably, right? And
yeah. So it's not like I pick up random books and I'm just like, oh, this surprised me how much I enjoyed it because I expected to enjoy it. I wanted to enjoy it. But it's the ones that other people suggest I read or want me to read, and then I end up enjoying them. Those are usually the ones that surprise me the most.
Awesome. All right, so those are the 10 interview questions that you had a chance to prepare for. And so now we have my favorite part, the would you rathers.
Okay.
So would you rather, number 1, read a paranormal romance or a monster romance?
Ooh. I'm gonna say monster. They're really my thing at the moment. I don't know what it says about me, but give me like a sentient beast man. It's the creativity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, because what's interesting is like each monster in a monster room is different.
Oh yeah. Like
And
authors are, I'm like, how? What were you on?
yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I think that often with monster romance.
Bagged by the groceries, am I right, April?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so for reading like styles and preferences, would you rather read one book at a time or multiple?
Oh, I'm a multiple. That's an easy breezy question there. I tend to have one of each format going at all times.
Okay, so like physical, digital, and audio. So like usually like
Yep.
3.
I usually have all three at once, but they have to be like different genres.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense because if you have like all monster romance, like 3 monster romance, you forget like the capabilities of each monster like between the
Yeah.
books. Yeah.
It's a lot easier to separate if I have 3 different genres going on all the formats.
Yep.
But that's one reason why I'm able to read as many books as I do, because I have 3 going at a time.
Yep.
And
do you
like
have like
sometimes the audiobook is easier, it's easier for me to access than my physical book. So I might be reading them all at the same time, but I might not finish them all at the same time.
Yep, good point. Good point. I like when they sometimes have like different tones or like moods to them too, like to kind of break up. So it's like if it's super heavy, you don't get like too sad and depressed. You have something like a little bit more lighthearted. Or like if you go like all dark romance, then you sort of like lose touch with reality. Like, where's my feminism?
Yeah.
Like, kind of need to mix it up a bit.
For sure.
Now, I think this might be the toughest would you rather question. Would you rather have a book end on a cliffhanger or with the death of a favorite character?
The death of a favorite character.
That's an easy answer for you. You're just going to kill them off.
Wow. I'm somebody who I don't mind if a favorite character dies. I think it leaves a
I thought you said you were loyal.
I am, but I don't go into them looking for it. It's not like I read a book and I'm like, oh, this is my favorite character. I hope they die. But I feel like and here's the thing, I want them to die and stay dead. I don't want a resurrection because that's just playing with my feelings.
Yeah, it's like manipulative.
Exactly. And I feel like when authors take that chance to like kill off a favorite character, it has much more of an emotional impact on me, and that book stays in my head and it's more memorable to me. And so it has that lasting effect. Okay. Whereas if you resurrect them, then like it's like I'm not really gonna feel emotionally connected to any other characters that die because you're just gonna bring them back to life. And then 2 months down the road, I'm gonna forget about that book. So I would, and cliffhangers annoy me unless the whole series is out, because then I have to wait for so long for the next book to come out. And by the time that book comes out, I've pretty much moved past caring. So just kill him. Just kill him.
Yeah, see, I think they're both kind of like manipulative tactics, that don't necessarily, I mean, there are cases where they're done and they add value.
Right.
Right? Like
I don't mind a cliffhanger, but I don't love them. Let's say that.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who would love a cliffhanger, that unresolved feeling. I just hate that. Okay, so I was thinking you read a lot of romances, as we've talked about, and so there are 2 very common tropes that receive a lot of hate in the romance world. So I wanted to know, would you rather read a miscommunication trope or a surprise pregnancy trope?
That is a difficult one. Which one
do
I hate more?
Yeah, like I hate them both.
I think I would rather read a surprise pregnancy because I don't mind those. Like if it's like, as long as it's not like a secret pregnancy where like the woman is keeping the baby a secret from the man who knocked her up. If it's just like a surprise, like, oops, a one night stand, here it is, or, you know, middle of the book, she starts feeling nauseous and misses her period. I don't mind that. So I'm going to go with the secret pregnancy.
Okay. Okay. So now if it was like the secret baby versus a miscommunication, which would you pick?
The secret baby.
Okay. Okay. So don't mind it as much. Yeah. Miscommunication is really frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So you said that you read a lot of genres. You're open to reading a lot of different books, but there's two genres I don't see a lot of on your channel. So I'm going to make you choose between them. Would you rather only read nonfiction the rest of your life or classics?
For the rest of my life?
The rest of your life? Only one genre. No more fantasy. No more monster smut.
I think I would go nonfiction.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because I actually just read a nonfiction.
Ooh.
It was about a cat. And I loved it. It was so sweet. So I would gear toward like the nonfiction because classics and I just we don't go together.
Gotcha.
I've tried reading classics so many times and they just bore me. I think it's because they're so description heavy. And I'm more of a dialogue reader.
Okay.
But I've tried many a classic and
not your thing.
Charlotte's Web, that's my favorite classic.
I cannot dispute that. That is amazing literature. Well, in nonfiction, there's such variety that I really love. I mean, there's variety in classics too, but yeah, nonfiction, there's just such a wide range, and it can get dry really quickly, just like classics can get dry really quickly. So it's tough between those.
And I can definitely do like I love learning about mythology and folklore.
Ooh, yeah.
So if you give me a nonfiction like that, those are pretty much the majority of at the end of the year when I see like my nonfiction versus my fiction.
Yeah.
Most of the nonfictions are mythology and folklore.
But you can get a lot of classics like that too.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going to sway me. It's going to be nonfiction.
Well, that's more than fair. I will accept that answer. Well, that's it. That wasn't too bad. That wasn't too intimidating.
I enjoyed that.
Well, BecxReadz, thank you so much for being a guest on the Biblio Files. It was a joy to interview you, and I love your videos and your collabs. So for everybody watching, if you have not yet subscribed to her channel, or mine for that matter, then what are you waiting for? Go ahead.
Jack is almost at 1,000. Get her there.
I'm right there. I keep like losing one and then gaining one.
Yeah.
It's stressing me out. I'm almost to that golden marker of 1,000 subscribers.
And then you gotta wait until you're like at 1,010 just to make sure it doesn't go below before you celebrate.
I know. I'm planning on doing like a live show Q&A or Ask Me Anything, and I'm like, I'm not even gonna plan it right now because I don't know. I'm gonna jinx myself. So
you're so close though.
Oh, I know. All right. Thank you everyone for joining. Be sure to check out our channels. Thank you so much for tuning in, and happy reading.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Yes, thank you.